When I left Christianity and religious fundamentalism, I realized that most churches in the extreme Christian nationalism teach their members to lead very mediocre, conformist lives. Now, I've said before, there's nothing wrong with being straight, wanting to have 2 kids, a white picket fence. You can still be a stereotype without being the boring side of a stereotype. I've known a lot of straight people that, they had a nuclear family, but they were interesting. They had an identity outside of their family. They had friends. They had interest and hobbies and events that they went to. They were complex people. They didn't look like someone that just came out of the Stepford Wives movie. They had interesting, complex existences. However, every woman I've ever met in church that was counseled by my mother, who was a friend to most of the cis heterosexual married women, their stories never seemed to get better. They were emotionally neglected, abandoned, cheated on, expected to do so much more work than their husbands had ever deemed necessary. The invisible labor that they did was astronomical. And they just lived life, what we would call mediocre. Very hetero, very expected, but very shallow. And a lot of the times, these cis heterosexual people, they had very shallow kids. And they do seem to have shallow kids. Shallow adults have shallow kids. You can be straight. Just don't be boring. Be interesting. Be different from other people. Don't conform or assimilate into conformity. Because most of those people are one step away from committing a crime or harming other people. There's a reason why straight men snap and kill their family. The mediocrity, the monotony can sometimes get so bad that people divorce and just leave because it's hard to maintain a soulless, numbness existence. I can't say I've met any happily married Christian cis heterosexual people. If you have, put it down in the comment section. The women just seem to be coping and resigned to being utterly miserable. And the men, it was a boys' club. And from what I know in therapy now, I'm pretty sure that most of those men never thought about their wives unless they had to or they were with them. That's why they call them balls and chains when they talk about their wives. The negative experiences and things I heard make me never want to become a cis heterosexual practicing wife in religion. And that's so sad. People don't have to be the worst versions of themselves, but there's just something about religion that brings out the worst in people. I wish someone had told me when I was in my teens that you don't have to conform. You don't have to be just anything. Find what makes you unique, what you like, what you want to do, and find a way to do it to the best of your ability. And which you can always change as you grow. You don't have to be any expectation. Any expectation, default, or toxic conformity is just not worth giving into. It doesn't make anybody happy. And women in the patriarchy, they're not happy. And women will defend the patriarchy till the last breath. A lot of them will. There are women out there that believe the patriarchy is the savior of the world. People like Erica Kirk. But what I learned is, just because you're a woman does not mean you have to be the worst parts, the most toxic, the most stereotypical. Find a way to be unique and true to yourself. And for men, don't give in to toxic masculinity or red pill stuff. Women, stop conforming to beauty standards and playing the patriarch's game. Play your own game by your own rules. Because at the end of the day, people aren't going to like you more for conforming. They really don't. They might treat you better, but in the long run, that's not the same thing as liking and enjoying someone's personality. And the more conservative, the more religious you are, the more likelihood that you're probably crashing Grindr. Because Grindr crashes and gets a lot, 3 times the traffic every time the Republican convention comes to town or meets. There's an old saying that people who are repressed become the worst freaks in private. And it's sad how people are unable or incapable of having artistic integrity. And that's why conformity is what kills the kids and makes families so miserable. Divorce is the only option. The only problem with divorce is once you get divorced, you get remarried and you start the miserable cycle again, with 20% more likely of a second divorce. So I just learned not to conform and not to care what anyone thinks. Because the only person who's going to have regrets is me. Life is short. Live life on your own terms.